In today's video, we are going to talk about verbs. This is a topic that you guys request all the time in the comments, so I thought I would sit down and make a video on it today. Now, in the first half of this video, I'm going to introduce to you the 12 different tenses, because there are about 12. And in the second half of the video, I'm going to show you how to form them and how to actually use them and when you should use them. So make sure you watch until the end of today's video, because we're going to go into a lot of detail and learn a lot about verb tenses. Now, as I said, there are 12 tenses, and we can divide these into present, past, and future, and also simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. You can see this diagram here. The past simple is I spoke. Present simple would be I speak. Future simple would be I will speak. Past perfect would be I had spoken English. Present perfect, I have spoken English. Future perfect, I will have spoken. Past continuous, I was speaking. Present continuous, I am speaking. Future continuous, I will be speaking. Past perfect continuous, I had been speaking. Present perfect continuous, I have been speaking. And future perfect continuous, I will have been speaking. So that's a lot of information all at once, I know, but to simplify this, I have divided these into 3 categories. Now, we don't use all of these tenses on a daily basis. Let's be honest here. I mean, native speakers don't always use these tenses. Some are more common than others. And I've divided this chart into 3 categories. The first category, very important tenses. So tenses you should absolutely know, you should be familiar with, and you should use on a daily basis. Less important tenses, you should still absolutely learn these, but they're not as common. And what I call unimportant tenses. So tenses that we don't actually use that often. Now, some people might disagree with me on this. This is honestly just my personal opinion based on, experience and what I use in conversation and my friends and other native speakers. But I know it can be challenging to memorize 12 different tenses. So if you do want to make this a bit simpler, focus on the tenses in the first category. If your end goal is to speak English fluently and to master grammar, then yes, you need to learn all 12 tenses. But let's just start with the first category, the very important tenses, and then work our way up. Now, in the first category, I talk about the present simple, the past simple, the future simple, the present perfect, the present continuous, and the past continuous. So those are tenses we use every day. In the second category, we have the past perfect, the future continuous, the present perfect continuous, and these are tenses that we still use, but they're not as common. And lastly, in the third category, we have the past perfect continuous, present perfect continuous, and future perfect continuous. These aren't tenses we use on a regular basis. Now, you can pause this video here. I'm going to put this diagram on the screen, and I've color-coded these 3 tenses here so you can see the different categories. So pause the video, take a screenshot if you need to, and study this for a moment. All right, with that said, let's get into the second part of the video. And in this part of the lesson, I'm going to look at each of these 12 different tenses. I'm going to show you how to form each tense. I'm also going to show you how to use each tense and in which situation you should use them. And lastly, I'm going to give you some example sentences. Now let's start with the present simple. This is probably the first tense you learned when you started studying English. We use the present simple for daily routines, so things that happen often, habits, facts, general truths, and scheduled events, so things that are planned. We form it with the subject, I, you, he, she, it is, we, or they, plus the base verb. For example, I speak English every day. She plays tennis on Sundays. That's something that happens regularly. It's a habit. It happens every Sunday. So we would use the present simple. She plays tennis on Sundays. And lastly, the sun rises in the east. This is a fact. It's a general truth. So we use the present simple. Now, the present continuous is used for actions happening now or around the present moment. It's used for temporary situations, and it's also used for future plans. I know that's a bit confusing. Present continuous, future plans. But yes, we do use it for future plans. We form it with the subject plus am, is, or are, and then the ing form of the verb. For example, I am speaking English right now. In this present moment, I am speaking English. They are watching TV right now. And for a future plan, we could say, we are meeting tomorrow. Now you could also say we will meet tomorrow, so the future tense, which we'll talk about in a moment, but you can actually use the present continuous. This is a future plan. We are meeting tomorrow. Now there's something quite important here that I want to bring to your attention. Be very careful. We don't use the present continuous for habits or things that happen often. We need to use the present simple for daily routines. So we don't say he is playing piano every day. That's a habit. He plays piano every day. We only use the present continuous for things that are happening now or future plans. So be careful. Now, the present perfect is used to talk about life experiences when we're not specifying a specific time. We also use it for actions completed recently and actions with a result in the present. It's formed with the subject plus have or has plus the past participle. For example, I have spoken English many times. That's a general life experience. We don't know exactly when in the past that happened. I have spoken. She has just finished her homework. This happened recently. It was completed recently. She has just finished her homework. And lastly, we have visited London twice. This is a general experience. It's not happening at a specific time. It happened twice. So we would use the present perfect. We have visited London twice. Now, the present perfect continuous is used for actions that started in the past and continue now, and for actions that were happening recently and explain a present situation. We form it with the subject plus have or has plus been plus the ing form of the verb. For example, I have been speaking English for 2 hours. That action started in the past 2 hours ago, and it's continuing to the present. I have been speaking English for 2 hours. I'm still speaking English now. That's the key. It's continuing to the present. She has been studying all day. She started early in the morning and she's still studying now. She has been studying all day. They have been living here since 2020. They're still living here. The action started in 2020, but it's still happening now. So we would use the present perfect continuous. They have been living here since 2020. Next, we come to the past simple. We use the past simple for completed actions in the past when we know the exact time. That's very important. We need to know the specific time an action happened. We also use it for a series of finished actions. We form it with the subject plus the past verb, the past simple tense. Unfortunately, there are also irregular conjugations as well, and those you just have to memorize. For example, I spoke English yesterday. We know exactly when this happened. It happened yesterday, so we have to use the past simple. I spoke English yesterday. They watched a movie last night. We know exactly when this happened. It happened last night. So we'd use the past simple, they watched. We visited Paris in 2019. We know exactly when we visited Paris. It happened in 2019. So we'd use the past simple. We visited. The big difference between the past simple and the present perfect is that the past simple is used for actions that happened at a specific time in the past, whereas the present perfect is used for actions that happened generally, when we don't know exactly when they happened. Now, the past continuous. We use the past continuous for actions that happened at a specific moment in the past. We can also use the past continuous for that. We also use it for interrupted past actions and parallel actions. So actions that happened at the same time in the past. We form it with the subject plus was or were plus the ing form of the verb. For example, I was speaking English when you called. Called is in the past simple and was speaking is in the past continuous. Now, called happened at a specific time in the past, right? When you called, that's a specific moment. I was speaking is an action that was happening at the same time by another action. I was speaking English when you called. This is a classic example of an interrupted action. She was cooking at 7 p.m. That happened at a specific moment in the past. She was cooking at 7 p.m. They were playing football while we were studying. Two actions were happening at the same time. They were playing football and we were studying. Now, you might be wondering, what's the difference between the past simple and the past continuous? Well, you can think about it a bit like this. The past simple is used for actions that happened at a very specific point, and they didn't last long. The past continuous is used for longer actions. For example, they were playing football probably for an hour, 2 hours, and they were studying for an hour or 2 hours. It wasn't an action that took 1 minute or 2 minutes. It was a longer action. And in the first example, I was speaking English when you called. The call is a short action. Didn't take long to call. It's a very specific point. But the speaking part, so the past continuous, was probably longer, maybe 5, 10, 20 minutes. The shorter action is often the past simple, whereas the longer action is often the past continuous. Now let's go on to the past perfect. We use the past perfect for an action completed before another past action. This is important. When we have two actions in the past, the action that happened before the other past action is in the past perfect. And we form it using the subject, using had, and using the past participle. For example, I had spoken English before moving to Canada. Both these actions happen in the past. You moved to Canada in the past and you spoke English in the past, but one happened before the other. I had spoken English before I moved to Canada. Or she had already left when I arrived. My arrival happened in the past, but her action, her leaving, had happened before that. So we'd use the past perfect. She had already left before I arrived. Now the past perfect continuous is used for a continuous action that started before another past event. And remember, by continuous action, we're talking about a longer action. We can also use the past perfect continuous to show the cause of something in the past. We form it using the subject, using had, using been, and using the ing form of the verb. For example, I had been speaking English for 2 years before I moved. She was tired as she had been working all day. Again, this is a bit of a longer action. It's a continuous action. She had been working for the whole day. Past perfect continuous. Now let's talk about the future. The most basic form of the future tense in English is the future simple. We use this for predictions, for spontaneous decisions, and for promises. We form it using the subject, using will, and then using the base verb. For example, I will speak English tomorrow. Don't worry, I will help you. It will rain later. Now you can also use going to. It's going to rain later. I am going to help you. I am going to speak English tomorrow, but that's more common in spoken English. Will is a bit more common in writing. Now, the future continuous is used for actions that happen at a specific time in the future. And we often use it, again, to predict what will be happening at a specific point. It's formed using the subject, using will, using be, and using the ing form of the verb. For example, I will be speaking English at 7 p.m. She will be working when you arrive. They will be traveling next week. Now, let's look at the second example here. She will be working when you arrive. Remember when we talked about the past continuous, we saw that we could use it for interrupted events? I would argue that this example sentence here is actually an interrupted event in the future. Both actions are happening in the future. The continuous action, the one that's happening for longer, she will be working, is being interrupted by the shorter action, when you arrive. In the first example, I will be speaking English at 7 p.m. We're talking about a specific point in time, 7 p.m. So we can use the continuous tense. Now, sometimes, and this is where it gets confusing, sometimes there's a bit of a gray area. It's not entirely black and white. So we could also use the future simple tense. For example, I am going to speak English at 7 p.m. or I will speak English at 7 p.m. Those are 100% correct. Same with the third example. They will be traveling next week. You could also say they're going to travel next week, or they will travel next week. In those examples, the future simple would also be correct. Again, it's probably better to choose the continuous tense if you're talking about a bit of a longer action, like maybe you're traveling for a few days and not just for 5 minutes, or maybe you're speaking English for an hour at a conference. It's a bit of a longer continuous action. That's the big difference between the simple and the continuous tense. The continuous tense is for longer and ongoing or continuous actions. Now, let's talk about the future perfect. The future perfect is used for actions that will be completed before a future time. For example, we have a specific time, a specific point in time in the future, and the action will be completed also in the future, but before that point. In that case, we can use the future perfect. We form it with the subject, with will, with have, and with the past participle. For example, I will have spoken English by the time you arrive. Both these actions are happening in the future. The arrival is happening in the future, and the ability to speak English is also happening in the future, but one is happening before the other. In that case, we would say, I will have spoken English by the time you arrive. By the time just means before the time. They're synonyms. By the time, before the time. She will have finished the book by tomorrow. Tomorrow is in the future. Her finishing the book is also in the future, but one happens before the other. Future perfect. She will have finished the book by tomorrow. They will have graduated by June. June is in the future. The graduation is in the future, but it happened before June. It happened by June. Remember, by is a synonym of before. And normally, if you see by, it's a pretty good chance you're going to use the future perfect. All right, last but not least, the future perfect continuous. We use it for continuous actions that will continue until a specific future moment. So we have a point in the future, and we have a continuous action that will continue until that point. The key here is that it emphasizes the duration, the ongoing action, the continuous action. We form it using the subject, using will, using have, using been, and the ing form of the verb. I will have been speaking English for 2 hours by 10 p.m. 10 p.m. is the specific point in the future. The continuous action happens in the future as well. It happens before 10 p.m. and it happens for 2 hours. So it's continuous, it's ongoing. I will have been speaking English for 2 hours by 10 p.m. I stop at 10 p.m. I will have been speaking for 2 hours before, by 10 p.m. in the future. She will have been working here for 5 years next month. Next month is in the future. The 5-year anniversary happens before that. She will have been working here indicates a continuous action, an ongoing action. She's been working here a long time. And lastly, they will have been studying for hours before the test. Test is in the future at a specific point. Studying is also in the future, but it's ongoing, and it happens before that specific point. So future perfect continuous, they will have been studying for hours. Now, there we have it. I know this was a longer video today, maybe a bit confusing if some of these tenses were new to you. For some of you, maybe you're a bit more advanced. You've heard these before, and this was a good refresher. You can watch this video as many times as you need. Take screenshots, go back to the beginning where I showed you which tenses you absolutely need to know and which tenses aren't as common. Of course, I would recommend you learn as many tenses as possible. I'd recommend you learn all 12, but we use some more than others. So if you are short on time or you just really want to focus on the basics or the most common tenses, then you can refer to that diagram at the beginning of the video. Let me know in the comments if you found this video useful. I know this was a topic that a lot of you have been requesting for a long time. If you'd like to improve your English with me and my team, click the link in the description below. We have weekly classes. We have amazing programs available online to help you speak English more confidently, more fluently. We learn grammar, we learn vocabulary, we learn business English. We have students who are improving for IELTS, for TOEFL, for all those exams. And of course, we have students who want to improve their listening, their pronunciation, their reading, and their writing as well. So if you are interested, you can submit an application below. And if we can help you, we will be in touch. Hope you found this video useful. Leave a like, subscribe to English at the Ready, and let me know in the comments which videos you would like to see from me in the future. I'll see you in the next lesson.